This is the place that I would want to land in the zombie apocalypse because it's truly like a fully sustainable community.
Almost everyone today says that they're farm to table. It's become such an exploited term that my dream was to create something that would truly be farm to table, truly be ranch to table. And that's what the Bear and Star is about. It's about doing it on a level that no one else is doing in California and that very few people are doing in America. My name's John, I'm a California chef, and I've dedicated my career to creating local food systems. So building ecology around restaurants, wineries, and breweries, and trying to create the ultimate ranch to table experience. I'm exactly the type of chef they told me not to be in culinary school, and by that I mean I'm not the type of chef that likes repetition or likes perfecting that perfect dish that I run throughout my career. I love to see food as an adventure, and I constantly want to go out and find new ideas and innovate and try to figure out what's the next thing. Here at the home ranch, we look at the overall ecology of what we call the ecosystem. So that includes a lot of different businesses inside of this umbrella. We have the Fess Parker Winery, we have Third Window Brewing Company, we have the restaurant, the Bear and Star, we have the home ranch farm and cattle program, and all of that comes together. And one of my biggest jobs actually is creating a closed loop. So how can we take the byproduct of one part of the group and use it as a resource in the other? How do we close down our footprint and use this asset and make the absolute most of it? All these different components could create the greatest ranch to table restaurant in California. And that's been my dream, that's been my vision.
John is a real free thinker, and he's not afraid to push the boundaries. And he came out here and he kind of embraced the spirit of the Wild West and starting this huge project that is massive, but it has the potential to be really great.
I had a dream for how it would all come together, and taking that vision and turning it into a reality is what I've spent the last 2 years doing. One of the first things that I did when I got to the ranch is look at the overall business. And there was something in the back of my mind that said we should try feeding the cattle with grape pumice and spent grains. So this is the grape pumice that we get from the winery. And you can see its stems, seeds, skins. And if you smell it, it almost smells like wine. It has that bread, yeasty. It smells really delicious, actually. So we had to bring in an expert who really does do analytics of cattle feed. We were elated to find out that the mix is actually a perfectly nutritious diet for the cattle. It really forms a very environmentally sustainable feed program. They love that brewer's grain. So all of these are Wagyu beef, and Wagyu essentially just means cow in Japanese. Wagyu beef is rare because it's relatively new to the United States. First of all, I'm looking for flavor. The grape pumice and the spent grains give the beef a very unique quality. When you taste it, it has what I like to call terroir. It's something that's very unique to this property. You hear a lot about how beef contributes to greenhouse gas levels, and one of the things that goes into that calculation, it's transporting food and cattle across the country. So the more that we can do to keep both the cattle and the food supply here in Los Olivos, the better for our restaurant, the better for the environment. So this is Akahiji 8119U, but as we lovingly refer to him, it's Bubba. Ranching and cooking are both very scientific and engineering based when you think about it. Aquaponics is essentially combining mariculture or fish farming with hydroponics, vegetable farming. It uses about 90% less water than traditional field farming because you're not losing water into the groundwater table. So this is our 4th generation aquaponics system, and Katie's developed this amazing system of tanks where we have the crayfish and the catfish here with the lettuces growing inside. What's really neat for me is that the water goes underneath the floor and up into these PVC pipes where it circulates around, and we can actually grow lettuce directly in that water stream.
We live in California. We're a huge drought, so this water, we don't lose any of it. It's just constantly going through the system. The plants take what they need, and what they don't comes back in.
So these little guys are all bundled up in the root ball and just looking for little stray bits to eat. He's saying hello. I'll put him back.
He's waving.
So this is one of the things that we're most excited about right now. It's a seaweed aquaculture tank. And we've been working with a seaweed researcher. That's all he does is work on growing seaweeds. And this is really exciting for us because it's the first time that he's aware of that someone's done it in a totally inland environment with no connection to the ocean. A lot of chefs say that dulse has a flavor similar to bacon. It's salty, it's umami. It's also a really nice textural pop. For me, this is one of the most inspiring places on the ranch. I've been raising mushrooms in different forms for about 3 years, and it's a really simple process. It's just mycelium that's been put into a substrate like redwood or coffee, and it's just so inspiring to see them grow from literally nothing up to these beautiful mushrooms.
Hey John, how's it going?
Good.
We produce a number of different wines, but we're probably most known for our Pinot Noir Chardonnay and then our estate Syrah grown right here on the vineyard.
As a chef, I always love balance. So what's exciting for me about the wine is that you get that rich, fruit forward, but then it's also balanced with minerality. Whether you're opening this bottle down at the Bear and Star or at a restaurant in Tokyo, it's gonna transport you back to this Los Olivos community. And that's really what's so special about it.
The journey that we're on is to create beer that is as expressive of the ranch's terroir as we possibly can. Flavors and microflora come from fruit that we forage in Santa Barbara. We have a lot of loquats in here. We've used peaches, raspberries, blackberries. As we go through and we taste all of the product of those barrels, the bugs that are creating flavors that we like, the lactobacillus, the pedio, the wild yeasts. Basically what we're doing is we're building a zoo in here.
We're creating a series of products, whether it's the wine or the beer or the steaks that you have at the restaurant, things that have this deep connection to the land.
It's an entirely sustainable ecosystem within itself that they're building.
I feel like it serves as a model for how we can achieve this very holistic, well-rounded, and comprehensive culinary experience.
Throughout my career, I've realized that cooking is such a political and ethical act. It's about not accepting the status quo and constantly saying, how can we do it better? How can we move on to the next thing? When I came up with the idea of the dinner party of the future, I wanted it to really be a dialogue on food and sustainability. What foods are going to be around in 50 years? I think the guests are in for a lot of surprises. I want my cuisine to be provocative, maybe even unsettling. It allows me to go completely outside the box.
There is a sense of mystery and wonderment that I think is keeping us on our toes.
I like to call tonight's first course a virtual oyster. This is combining virtual reality with a very unusual ingredient. Please go ahead and put the goggles on, and we're gonna go visit a friend of mine who has an oyster farm in Morro Bay. We're facing a lot of challenges with CO2 in the atmosphere that's getting filtered by the ocean. It means that the waters are becoming more acidic. Those oysters are no longer able to produce the shells that they once were. Hopefully, the guests will have no idea that they're not eating an oyster. So inside that oyster shell is actually a juvenile moon jellyfish. To eat fresh California moon jellyfish is almost unheard of.
So you basically just place it into an oyster shell.
That's it.
These were like super delicate, and I was fooled.
I really feel that if climate change continues the way that it is, that things like mussels and oysters may not be around in 50 years. Instead, we're gonna see blooms of jellyfish. We're already seeing them, just massive schools of moon jellyfish that haven't been in this area that much before.
I'm more surprised by the virtual reality goggles because John is really bringing Silicon Valley innovation to the dining room here.
Tonight's second course is going to focus on edible algae and different sea creatures. So the idea is to have people start thinking about eating lower on the trophic scale. It's just not sustainable for everyone to eat sea bass and salmon. So we're looking at things like sand crabs and sea cucumbers and keyhole limpets, things that we don't often think of on menus, but that I think should get more attention.
This is going below what I would have considered to be the seafood I would eat, and sort of almost reimagining the potential of what lies beneath.
Very pleasantly surprised. I was very hesitant about the sea cucumber.
Course 3 is all about our aquaponics. We're using crayfish and catfish, as well as a variety of spicy greens like nasturtiums and mustard.
So John, everything here is edible?
Yeah, it's all edible. The fish provide nutrients for the plants filter the water back down for the fish.
Hydroponics and vertical farming, they can make crops using 1% of the water from a conventional field.
These are systems that you could set up on a roof in downtown. It really enables you to bring fresh foods into the city center. When you're most creative is when you give yourself restrictions, but when you really focus on just these 3 boxes and see what you can create, that's the most exciting part for me.
It's amazing because it's coming from a full circle sustainable unit.
And seeing a system like this, I think, well, wait a minute, like I could actually do that at home.
Fourth course is all about luxury. We are a cattle ranch in Los Olivos, and we raise amazing Wagyu beef. I think that in the future, Wagyu beef will be around, but it's going to be more of a luxury ingredient. People won't sit down to a 12-ounce steak. They'll have a little 2-ounce perfectly cooked piece of ribeye or perhaps some braised oxtail.
California Wagyu doesn't really taste like any other beef. We're in wine country, so I guess it's got terroir. That's the easiest way to say it.
The food that excites me most is the food that's surrounding me, taking what's mundane to most people and trying to make them the highlight of a dish. For dessert, we're gonna create a toasted acorn cake with candied yucca blossoms and a little acorn ganache.
I grew up in California, and so I've seen acorns all over the place, and you really do just kind of kick them out of the way. And it's amazing to think that something actually comes out of this.
If I'm eating something that was harvested that day within walking distance, there's something exciting about that because that actually makes the cuisine accessible to me. Maybe I can do that as well.
My ultimate hope is that this experience really prompts a dialogue about dining and the future of foods.
There are so many things that we ate here tonight that I think are essentially gateway foods for people to think about eating a different way.
I feel really hopeful for the future of food because there are so many people out there who are genuinely now engaged. It's a really exciting time for food culture, and now sort of technology and information are kind of catching up to that, so I think it's promising.
Food shapes communities. And so when people come here, they experience something that's unique to Los Olivos, but it goes beyond that. It goes to actually preserving the community itself and making sure that it's intact for future generations.